Okay, so the recording is started. So welcome everyone to a presentation on the state parks and state forests and also on hiking trails. And it is done by Catherine Wrigley, who works for Forest Parks and Recreation. And having learned a lot from the last presentation I was in with her, this is going to be a great presentation, and it shows off some of the great parks and forests and hiking areas all through the state. So welcome, Catherine.
Hello all. I'm not going to be using my video today, so you'll just be seeing this PowerPoint. I'm Catherine, as April mentioned, and I'm out of the Essex Junction District Office, which means that I help manage recreation on state lands in Northwest Vermont. So if you've been to Camel's Hump or Mount Mansfield from the west side or any of our island state parks, those are some of the places that I'm lucky enough to get to work. And I'm actually hope that my internet is all right today. I'm calling in from my car down in Springfield. I wanted to get out in the field today, and the easiest place for me to do this presentation was outside of a state office down here in Springfield. So that sort of leads into the first part of the talk, where I just sort of describe how internally Forest Parks and Recreation thinks about Vermont, the state of Vermont. Like y'all are librarians, so maybe you know every library in every town. I think of Vermont as sliced up into 4 or 5 pieces, which are regions or districts. And then after I go over that, I'll quickly show you 2 tools. One is Find a State Park, and that's how to find a state park. And then Trail Finder, which helps find trails around Vermont for, sort of anybody. And I have pulled screenshots from the websites just to ensure that the PowerPoint goes smoothly, but April does have the link, so she'll be putting those in the chat so that if you all want to follow along on the actual websites or test them out yourselves, you will have access to that. And then I'll go through and just give an example of one state park from each region and a trail from each district. Again, you could do this presentation in many ways, but when you think of the state as 4 regions or 5 districts, this is how my brain decided to do this presentation. And I definitely encourage you all to ask any questions, whether it's by raising your hand or popping them in the chat box. And April will help me realize if I can't see your hand, so she'll let me know if any questions are coming up.
Yes, I will.
So as I mentioned, I see the state as regions and districts. So this is just a quick picture to show you our Vermont state parks are managed in regions. I don't know the origin story of regions and districts. I just know that I function within these frameworks. So there's 4 regions. You can see them. It's sort of like northeast, southeast, northwest, southwest. And then there's 5 forest districts, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you will be getting one more hiking trail or one more sort of state forest trail than state parks today. So the first thing we're going to go over is a tool that I use quite a lot, because even though I work for Forest Parks and Recreation, there are many state parks around the state that I haven't been to. So this is a great resource that's just on the FPR webpage. It's free. Anyone can use it. And you're able to actually filter by park amenities. So you can see over here, I've highlighted 2 that I'm always interested in: camping and swimming, which with this weather that's coming up this weekend, swimming is probably going to be a hot topic. So you can see currently nothing is clicked over here, clicked, but there's no check marks in any of these boxes. And so you can see all of the state parks that are in Vermont currently. And then when you decide to click to however many of these, I have clicked enough that nothing comes up, but usually if you click, 2 or 3, you'll get a smaller grouping of state parks around the state that will fulfill your goals for a day or weekend. And then when you look at this and you're like, okay, well, I live in Montpelier, I want to stay pretty close to home, you can see that there's this right here. It looks like it's pretty easy to get to. So you click on that. And when you click on, I never know what these are called, like locators. That's what I'm going to call them. When you click on the locator, this box pops up and tells you the name of the state park. It gives you the phone number, the address, so then you can tell exactly how long it'll take to get there. And then it gives you an idea of all the different activities that you could do there. And then you can click down here. See, it says visit park page. So you click there, and then it brings you to the standard Vermont State Park website, which this is a screenshot of it. So it does give you more park info. I just can't scroll down because, you know, this is a screenshot, but it gives you the park info, tells you how many camping spots there are, whether or not pets are allowed, cabins. It usually has updates over here. And then all of these different tabs, which obviously I can't click on because this is a screenshot, but give you information on how to get there, different activities again, and the maps and documents. So this includes things like maps of any trails that might exist, as well as campsites. And you'll see a few of those later in the presentation. So that's Find a State Park. It's helped me find many new places to explore. I think it's an awesome little tool. And then another tool that I don't use as much because I don't know, I have a little trail map in my head that I use, but I think that this is another great tool. So this trail finder is actually for New Hampshire and Vermont, which you'll see next. Don't get overwhelmed. You may see that there's more trails than you ever imagined on the next slide. So this is the main, if you were to go to trailfinder.info, this is the main page. And if there's any like sort of overarching message, there will be a banner across the top that says like mud season or COVID-19 information, things like that. But currently there's not one. So you click start exploring. And as I said, this covers Vermont and New Hampshire. So it's a little overwhelming at first. It's showing 760 trails, which is pretty amazing, but also like, how do you choose? Luckily, there's this little find trails option over here. And there's a drop down, so you could do hiking, biking, horseback riding. I forget if they have snowmobiling, but it has, you know, a lot of different trail activities that you can choose from. Difficulty level, accessible experience, how far you want to go. What are other people doing? What are some popular searches? If you have keywords that you're like looking for. And then you could also say, well, I know I only want to be within 10 miles of my home. You could have that option as well. So I filled this out. And I said I wanted to do a trail activity walking. I wanted it to be easy, 1 to 4 miles, and family friendly in all towns. So you can see that it went from 760 trails down to 84 trails. And then to zoom in a little more, if you're kind of like, okay, well, I live in Bennington, so I want to see what's down here available for me. You just click on that 5, and then you see it zooms automatically to this location and then shows you those locator buttons for 5 trails that match this description that you've entered over here. And then again, you can click on this locator and a picture and the name of the trail. I'm just tired and very hot. the name of the trail shows up here, and a short description. So it tells you it extends 2 miles from Lake Perrin in North Bennington, and it goes to Route 7A in Shaftesbury. And you're like, okay, this seems cool. So then if this was on the if you were on the actual website, this Robert Frost Trail is hot linked. So you would click on that, and then it takes you to all the information about the trail. Again, I had to do a screenshot of this. So there is an extensive description. You can see a trail map. There's directions, comments, services. You can add your own comments or pictures. Up here, it has some quick information about, the length, difficulty, the towns that it's in, the surface, if that's important to you, pets, and if there's a fee to get there or not. And each trail also has a map, so then you can click on the trail map and see what the trail looks like on the ground. And the maps, I should have put out the legend, but you can see this is like parking. This is where the trailhead is. I'm not sure what this little monument is. Sometimes it like highlights like there's swimming here and a boat launch here, even though that's not related directly to your hike. But there's a plethora of information provided on these maps. And then it even shows other connecting trails that you can then quickly click into if you want to make your own sort of little adventure for the day. So that's it for us finding a state park and Trail Finder. And if there aren't any questions about those two tools, I'm going to continue on and start talking about specific trails and state parks.
So I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, but I will keep an eye on that. And people can also feel free to unmute and ask a question or raise your hand. And I can always interrupt Catherine and just let her know if there's questions.
Oh, definitely interrupt me. Okay, great. Well, then we'll just jump into some state parks. I was joking with my coworker earlier, who I'm down in the Springfield district, which is District 1 Springfield office, and I told him that this is the trail I decided to tell you all about, and he was like, oh man, he's like, that trail gets a lot of use already, and I thought maybe it'll get more. So this is the Hellville Trail, which goes to Ludlow Mountain, and it's in Okemo State Forest. It's a moderate hike, and it's about 7 miles round trip. It is an out and back, so out and back in hiking is when you're hiking the same trail in and out versus a loop trail where you start at one point and make a circle and end at the same point, but you haven't rehiked any of the same trail. And dogs are allowed on leashes. So you can see this is like another, I showed you in the Trail Finder how you can see the satellite imagery, or you can see topography to understand how steep the trail that you're gonna hike is. So this trail, you can see you're going to go up to Ludlow Mountain and then back down, and these topographic lines that are squished together means it's like a little steeper here and a little mellower here. So that can be a helpful decision-making tool if you're trying to figure out if something is going to be like more strenuous or less strenuous than what you're looking for, or what your patrons. Is that what librarians call people who come? What the people
usually patrons.
Okay.
That's the most used word.
Okay.
We did get a question in the chat.
Great.
One library is interested in doing some programming with the local state park, but when they call, they get routed to the statewide answering service. Do you know any good ways to get in touch with the people who work at the local park? Is there like a secret Forest Parks and Rec directory?
I will have to think about that. It might be, had they been calling because it's was the park not open yet?
Oh, I'm wondering if it was that because they opened last weekend, right?
Yeah. So my first guess would be maybe the park isn't open, and then if it's still not working, the secret way to do it might be to go to the FPR website and go to the district office or the regional office and call the regional office phone number.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sorry, I can't give a better answer. My guess would be that it was that the park wasn't open yet.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And so then on this hike, you get a little view at the top, which is why I thought it would be nice. So we're still down here in Springfield. This is actually the office I'm sitting outside, in case I forgot to tell you all that already. So this is Molly State Park, which is in Wilmington, Vermont. My friend who works down here suggested this. He likes it because of this fire tower. I thought it was a great suggestion when I looked at it because it has a nice small camping area that offers lean-tos as well as tenting options. And then you actually are able to hike right from where you're camping up this Mount Olga trail to a fire tower. And see how this could be an out and back or a loop. So it's a loop because you could go up here and down here, or just up and down the same. And then when you get up there, you have this beautiful view from the fire tower. So I don't know, I always think it's pretty special when you can hike to a location right from your camping spot. So now we're over in District 2, which is the Rutland office. So my colleague down here suggested the Black Swamp Trail, which I'm actually familiar with. It's definitely kind of probably a less used trail in the Coolidge State Forest. It goes to Shrewsbury Peak, which is actually a natural area, Shrewsbury Peak Natural Area. So it's a little more rugged and less developed than some other trails. It's a moderate hike, meaning that it has some up and downs, but no steep extended steep sections, and it's about 4 miles. Again, this is another out and back, and you access this trailhead via the CCC road. So if you were feeling ambitious, I'm pretty sure that these 2 parking areas are on that CCC road. So you could make a large loop, but I would suggest consulting Trailfinder to ensure that you feel comfortable with the mileage and the steepness, etc., on both the trails. And this is just a look at sort of, you may not get the best view, but this is some beautiful woods, and probably you wouldn't see too many people if you're looking for kind of an out of the way place to check out. And this is again in Coolidge State Forest. So then down in Region 2, again, this is the Rutland office. I suggested Lake St. Catherine State Park over in Poultney. I chose this because I always like it when there's kind of a variety in the campsite. So there's some bigger loops and smaller loops. There's tent campsites. There's access to the lake and swimming. There's boat rentals, canoes, there's disc golf, which I thought was pretty interesting, and there's a universally accessible nature trail. So this just seemed like a really fun park that has a lot of different resources to explore, especially during a hot summer day. I just saw a concession, and it's like my snack time, and I was like, concession stand. So District 3, this is my stomping ground, Essex Junction office. My suggestion for here is the Bean Trail. It is in Camel's Hump State Park, which is one of I call it an undeveloped state park because there's not a fee, there's not the infrastructure associated with our developed state parks. I chose to highlight the Bean Trail. It's an easy hike. It's about 3 miles round trip. So it's 1.5 miles to up the trail, and half of a mile of that is on an old woods road, and then 1 mile is like a nice gentle hike where like you go up for a little and then it plateaus and then you go up. So I call it very forgiving. And it is an out and back. And the reason I wanted to highlight this is because there's actually a shelter. So when you hike the Bean Trail, you're not getting a really cool view from a fire tower, but you do end at this shelter, and it's a 4-wall shelter. It's a long trail shelter, so you can actually access the long trail from here. And I thought it's like not only a fun destination for kids, maybe just for a day hike, but I think it would be a great if you're trying to take your kids or yourself, if you're a beginner backpacker and are just trying to learn the ropes. This feels like a really great way to try out all your gear. You have shelter here, so and there are also some tent spots. So let's say you want to try to set up your tent, but it doesn't work. You can go in here, or it's raining, you have shelter, and this is a porch. And I was actually at this shelter the other day for work. And there's also a really big fire ring, which is fun because those aren't at all shelter locations. And this is maintained by the Green Mountain Club, who's a long-term partner with the Forest Parks and Recreation. And then the other place I chose in Essex Junction is Grand Isle State Park, which is in Grand Isle, which is by no means a secret state park. I think it's one of our largest, but that's kind of why I chose it, is because, especially because of COVID and the explosion and people wanting to get outside, Grand Isle State Park, because it's so large, does usually tend to have a couple spots open. So if you get patrons who are coming in and saying, oh, I didn't know I had to make, like I'm going to Night Island State Park this summer and I made reservations last November and I'm going in July. And it's completely booked all summer. But Grand Isle State Park's one of those places where if you have a patron who comes in and says, hey, I want to go camping this weekend, where should I go? This is highly likely to have a spot for them still. There's 115 tent and RV sites, 36 lean-to sites, and 4 cabins. Pets are allowed in certain locations, and there's a lot of activities, including fishing, boating, swimming, and interpretive programs and volleyball. And all these activities are right in the park. Grand Isle is also awesome because it's really, there's a lot of biking that you can do in the islands. So, you could bike to this park, set up a tent, and then go on sort of an island biking adventure. So now we're over in District 4 in Barry office, and I chose another highly popular site, but I chose it because I'm trying to highlight different uses and different levels of comfort doing different things. You'll see what I mean. I have a picture of like someone biking down a rock, which I can't do, but people like Perry Hill because you can do that. So Perry Hill is C.C. Putnam State Forest, Waterbury, and I realize that y'all maybe are focused on the state parks because you are provided with the state park passes. But sometimes it's great if people come in and you don't have a state park pass available for them. I wanted to highlight some state forests, since state forests are no fee and might provide some similar activities to what people are looking for at a state park. So this is a place where there's 10 miles of single track, which is for mountain biking. It's considered to be for intermediate and expert riding. And it's known for its technical riding, which I think technical riding, my understanding of it means that it's like there might be more roots and rocks and sort of obstacles that you have to bike over. And also in the next picture, I'll show, people are biking down like a rock face. Pets are permitted on leash, and trails here are maintained by the Waterbury Area Trails Alliance. And it's cool because it is just right in Waterbury. So, you could go here and then go get ice cream downtown. I've jumped in this river. I went biking here like twice and I jumped in this river afterwards. So this is what I was talking about. So this is one of the favorite lines of people. I don't do this line, but it's popular. So then Region 4, Barry office, New Discovery State Park, which is in Marshfield, Vermont. I wanted to highlight New Discovery because it is a location where horse camping is actually allowed. And there's not an extensive amount of that allowed in state parks across Vermont. So there's actually a whole horse camping site section of the park. But you can also just regular camp or RV camp as well. There's the lean-tos and tent sites. I guess a lean-to you're not going to RV camp at, but and what's cool about New Discovery State Park and any of these parks that are in Groton State Forest. So Groton State Forest is about 30,000 acres. It's one of our biggest state forests. And you can see that it's sort of highlighted. This white is all Groton State Forest. And then within it, there's a handful of state parks. So if you go to New Discovery State Park with your horse or just without your horse because you don't have one, and you stay there for one night or multiple nights, you actually get access to all the other 5 state parks within the park. So you notice that like New Discovery might not be close to water. Well, you could go down to Stillwater or Boulder Beach and access Lake Groton. You could go down here and check out Ricker Pond. So it's just a cool way to explore a pretty big area for the price of one place. And then these are some people who enjoyed their horseback riding. St. Johnsbury office is District 5. So this is the Bog Pond Trail, which is in Victory State Forest in Victory. This is considered an easy to moderate hike because it's not particularly steep and the trail's pretty wide. It's about 6 miles round trip out and back, and it's great for birding. When you get out there, there's a pretty cool bog, and bogs usually attract neat wildlife as well, and they also have really special like trees and plants and such. And then I did just want to touch on this. Again, I realize that y'all get the park passes, but if you're just trying to direct people to public land, that might be available. There are wildlife management areas. There's over 100 of them across the state. They're managed for the benefit of wildlife, so the uses are a little bit different than in our state parks or state forests. They're great places for hunting, fishing, wildlife viewing, and photography. And some locations do allow boating, and they are focused on dispersed wildlife-based pedestrian activities, such as walking or running. They're not as friendly usually to biking or other, like, I don't know, hoverboarding, things like that. And then to locate a WMA near you, there is a Find a Wildlife Management Area page that you can consult depending on, and then choose wildlife areas in your area. Just said the word area a lot. And then I just also wanted to highlight other power-driven mobility devices, OPMDs. And ANR being the Agency of Natural Resources, makes every effort to provide reasonable accommodations in our policies, practices, and procedures to allow people with mobility disabilities access to state lands. People with mobility disabilities may choose a power-driven mobility device, which can range from a personal vehicle to an ATV to a Segway type device. And agency staff have assessed our state land travel routes and can provide information on where to use these mobility devices for hunting and other recreational uses. And there is a policy that you can read. There's an online way to get a user pass, and then also a trail map to see where that user pass can be, where you can use, what trails you can use the pass on. And does anyone have any questions? I realize I did forget to ask April, which is my own fault, and people can always email me after this. I did forget to ask if I showed you some places that are tenting, and I realized you might only have day passes, but most of the state parks I showed you can they're day pass or overnight, so that shouldn't be a problem.
Yes, the passes that the libraries get are day passes.
Yeah.
And so I think that all the ones you showed, I believe, use day passes.
Yeah. So I'm sorry about that. I kind of forgot about that distinction. And I could have probably thought a little bit. I could have done better, but you can always do better. So hopefully this gives you a starting place. And then if I do this again next year, I can take it up to the next level for y'all.
We could probably do this again this year or next year. This year.
I know, right?
All right. Let me check the chat. Okay. So Jennifer, who actually works with me, said that Kettle Pond is her favorite. It is flat and extremely pleasant.
Awesome.
I also I liked your Perry Hill one because I love that area.
Yeah, it's just so fun.
It is. And you can go through a tunnel to get to the trails.
Yeah, and I guess I should have noted with that too. Those are walking trails too. It's sort of known as like a biking location, but you're definitely allowed to walk or trail run there as well.
Yeah, so I used to trail run there, and those hills are killer.
Yeah, that's why I
I've
was like,
I've
I've
gone
only biked
around
there
those
twice.
giant rocks.
Exactly, exactly.
And Cindy said it was a really good overview. Thank you.
Hmm.
And one person asked, what is the cost of replacing a state park pass? But I think I would need to check with someone else for that.
I don't
Oh
remember.
yeah.
It's probably around 50. If you call this number I'm putting in the chat, they are the people you call to order a replacement pass, and they can tell you how much it costs.
Okay.
Cool.
All
Yeah,
right.
I definitely would have had to punt on that because I do not know.
For anyone who doesn't have access to the chat, if you want to hear the phone number, it is 1-888-409-7579. And that is the phone number to call if you need to replace your Parks Pass. All right, and I don't have any other questions in the chat. I did put in all of the links for what was in your presentation. So that might be it for questions. It was a great presentation.
Yeah, well, thanks for giving me the opportunity. I'm always amazed, as I said, I work for the state and I'm still going to state parks I've never been to and state forests I've never been to. And I'm always just feeling eternally grateful to live in a state that has such great public resources. So, um, yeah, so thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk to y'all about some of the cool places that people might be able to go.
Thank you so much. I'm probably going to reach out to you next year and have you do the same thing.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah, I can't. Okay, I can't actually stop. Sorry, it took me a second to figure out how to stop sharing my screen.
That's all right. All right. Well, I hope everyone has a really great Friday afternoon.
Thanks. You all too.
Thanks.